Welcome to this dating support session. Wasn't quite sure what to call it. I quite like the idea of a surgery. So clinic is now open. Many of you know me and I know many of you, but for those who don't, my name is Catherine Baldwin, which I'm sure you know because you've signed up. I am a love, dating and relationships coach. I'm the author of a book that you can see behind me called How to Fall in Love, a 10-step journey to the heart. I run courses online and in person, workshops and retreats, and I can tell you a little bit more about what's coming up in a while. But this is a dating support session, a Q&A session. I do have a couple of masterclasses coming up later this month, which I'll tell you about, which are more sort of, I suppose, I don't like to use the word teaching, but they're more me using material and sharing that with you with some questions at the end. This is more about the questions that have already come in, which I've had a few come in on email, and then the questions that you bring live. And I'm doing this because I know many people struggle with dating and relationships. I also know that there is a way through because I have come through it myself. I used to struggle a lot for many years. And I have also, and I'm now married and love my husband and we have a great time together. And yes, it's worth bothering, but I'll come back to that question. What else was I going to say? And also because I really want to connect with you and with my audience. And I feel like I have all this knowledge and I'd like to bring it to people and support people. So for those of you who are watching live, I've asked you to share your biggest challenges in the chat. So we've got, I'll just read out a couple of the questions. We've got a question about why do men always go for women who are a lot younger, even if they don't stand a chance. I've added that bit. Can I be bothered? Is it worth the effort and the hassle? A challenge around getting disappointed with dating, you know, getting to know someone and then it doesn't, getting your hopes up and then it doesn't work out. And yeah, having had some bad experiences, the same question, why bother? Is there a better way to meet someone than online, having had bad experiences online? Dating apps have eroded self-esteem. Yeah, I hear you. Okay, in a relationship that started really, really well, but not fulfilling expectations, struggled with boundaries and expressing my needs. Thank you so much, those of you who are live, for sharing. And I hope that by just coming to this, you feel like you can feel like you're not alone. You're not alone with these struggles. And I do believe there is a way through. If I can give you some hope. Recently, I received beautiful photographs from two of my coaching clients of their wedding days in their beautiful dresses. And so they are women who might have said in the past that it was a real struggle and why bother. And so if you're looking for a long-term committed relationship, then I believe that it is worth it. So those of you who are here live, I'd love you to keep putting any questions or challenges in the chat, and I will get to those, including the ones that you've already put there. And I'm just going to start with, let me start with one of your live questions. So I'm going to start with the question around dating apps or dating online and how it can affect us. Is it worth it? And it's a really good question, and a similar question came in on by email. Is dating worth the hassle? So I think when we put ourselves out there, we have to make sure that we are in a really good place emotionally. And I think if we're honest with ourselves, sometimes we're not. So if we put ourselves out online and we're not in a good place emotionally, then we are vulnerable to having our self-esteem eroded and damaged. Now, I'll come on to the fact that dating apps can do that in itself, but the first thing is to check in with yourself. What am I doing to take care of myself, of my body, of my health, of my well-being? What am I doing to love myself? So how am I building my self-esteem? Self-esteem comes from doing esteemable things. So what esteemable things are you doing today for yourself? And I know it's very hard to fit this stuff in amongst work and everything else, but you know that it's vital that if we don't build up our self-esteem ourselves, then it becomes eroded, and also then we're vulnerable when we go online. So you know, the first question before putting up a profile online is you know, what am I doing to build my self-esteem? How is my self-esteem? How is my self-esteem today? And if you want to answer that question, how is your self-esteem today? Please put that in the chat, because it's interesting to reflect on ourselves and how our self-esteem is today. How much do you value yourself? How much do you love yourself today? Because remember, when we're going out online, when we're going online or going out in real life, looking for someone to date, we are looking for someone to value us, find us attractive, ultimately love us. And we've got to do that for ourselves first. So if you want to answer that, please do, or simply reflect on it. How is your self-esteem? I think self-esteem and self-love is one of the biggest hurdles, or perhaps the biggest mistakes that we make when we go dating, that we don't have sufficient self-esteem in place first. And then what happens is we have a bad experience, and that erodes it even further. So how are you taking care of your health? Are you eating well? Doesn't have to be perfect. Are you exercising a little bit? Doesn't have to be perfect. Do you have reasonable balance in your life between the various areas of your life? So how are you taking care of yourself? Another thing that came up for me, I had a photo shoot. If you follow me on social media, you might have seen some of the pics. I had a photo shoot a few weeks ago. So I, you know, I've been running this business since 2017. I am a professional person. That is my first photo shoot. And I'm astounded that it took me so long to invest in myself. So I just wanted to suggest this to my followers and those of you who follow my coaching. How would it be to invest in yourself? You know, that photo shoot I had it on the beach. It was really good fun. Of course, beforehand, I thought, well, I needed to lose like a couple of pounds beforehand, or I needed a blow dry beforehand and I didn't have time. I don't know how to apply makeup other than lipstick and eyebrow pencil. So, and my arms are a bit wobbly. So all those things that go through your head before you know, have a photo shoot. And it was so much fun, and she captured me really, really well and naturally. And it was really windy, so it didn't matter about my hair. So my point is, how are you presenting yourself online? Now, it doesn't have to be a professional shoot, but have you taken some time to invest in yourself and your online profile? Now, we all know those photos that some men and perhaps some women take of themselves in the selfie in the mirror, which is absolutely awful. I just think it would, you know, for me, that photo shoot really boosted my self-esteem. It really did. I was waiting to see the photos and think, oh, I hate my face and I hate this, but it really boosted my self-esteem. Not just the photos, but the fact that I had done it and invested in myself. So how can you invest in yourself in terms of your self-esteem? And then when we go online and our self-esteem gets eroded, you know, I think we always have to bring it back to us. So I know there's a lot of people out there who might not be nice people, who might ghost, who might say things that aren't nice. But to what extent are we exposing ourselves to people who aren't going to be nice to us? Are we engaging online with people who instinctively we think, actually, my instinct tells me that they're not going to be nice to me, but I do it anyway because I'm really hungry for attention, affection, love. I'm really hungry to be, I want to be seen. I want to be in a relationship. I want to be married. How hungry are you? And how is that impacting the people you interact with? And can you be more discerning? Now, as we lower our level of hunger and craving, so you've heard me talk about dating with a craving is like going grocery shopping when we're starving. Like anything comes in the basket really quickly, no discernment. So as we lower our craving for love, attention, affection, how do we do that? We do that from the inside out. So we do those really simple, it doesn't have to be an overhaul or a complete makeover, really simple, small, self-loving steps. So we start building ourselves up from the inside. And then we try and, bring lots of love into our lives, through our friendships and family and so forth. How can you increase your love circle so that there isn't this hunger and craving for love? So as you decrease your hunger and your craving, your discernment will go up. So you will become more discerning, and you will be more, you won't send so many messages or receive messages from people who aren't actually of your caliber. Now, this isn't about having ridiculously high standards or pricing people out of the market or whatever. It's about knowing yourself and trusting your instinct, believing in yourself and in your worth, and not accepting, putting in a boundary. So perhaps you don't want to engage with those people. So I'm just going to look through the chat, but if you have any thoughts about what I've just said, or want to share anything about your self-esteem, if you think you might want to have a photo shoot or anything like that, just write it in the chat. So there's another similar question about tiring of dating apps. I think, there was a question that came in online in terms of dating websites, apps, are they worth the hassle? In fact, it was asked by somebody who is here present. I'll just go to that first. So practice. For me, if we have struggled in the past to have a healthy relationship, then we need loads of practice. Because what happens when we might do all our personal development work, and we might do lots of yoga and meditation, and we might think, yep, I'm totally sorted. And I used to think that if I went to Tibet for 6 weeks and sat in silence and calmed myself down, then I would come back totally peaceful and my relationships would be fantastic. My romantic life would be brilliant. But the fact is, I need that foundation. I need a foundation of self-love, self-care, self-belief, connection to instinct, and so forth. But once I have a reasonable foundation, I need to go out there and practice, because what happens is you do all your Zen meditation and everything, and you feel pretty sorted. And then as soon as someone you find attractive crosses your path, everything goes out the window and all your buttons get pressed and all your hormones go crazy, and it's absolutely normal and natural. So we need loads of practice. So I always say, actually my hairdresser said recently that she hadn't been on a date in many, 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 many years. So I said to her, well, on this date that you are going on, do not expect this man to be him. It's highly unlikely that this person that you're about to meet, having not met anyone for many, many years, is going to be your life partner. The odds are against that. But what this does offer is fantastic practice. So one of the hardest things to do, especially if we've struggled with self-esteem, is to set healthy boundaries. Is to say that they suggest meeting at 7. You don't want to meet at 7, you want to meet at 6. but you don't want to lose the opportunity of meeting them. You don't want to start off by being demanding, blah, blah, blah. So you don't set the boundary. You don't say, oh, actually, I'd like to meet at 6. You go against your instinct in that first moment. And from there, it's a sliding slope. No, it's a downhill slope. It's a sliding scale. So you need loads of practice. We all need loads of practice in life, in work, in love. We need practice speaking our truth and setting our boundaries. And I think that dating websites and dating apps allow for that practice. So you need to know quickly when to cut off a conversation. You need to know quickly when you want to meet someone, and then set those boundaries about where to meet, whether you drink, what time you go home, how much you share of yourself. You want to set those boundaries, and you want practice with that, because the first time you won't get it right. You know, I didn't get it right millions of times. Like, oh, I'll go along and I'll meet at 7 and I'll be home by 9. You know, it's like 11 o'clock at night, and I'm still out, and now I've got to get the night bus home, and I'm in a vulnerable position with a guy standing by the bus stop in the dark, and oh, hang on, I've just kissed him, or I didn't want that to happen. So we need practice to say, like, I'm going to go home at this time. So dating is all about practice. When you get tired of dating apps, I would come off them. I believe that it's healthy to have some online dating, because that's how people meet these days, often, not all the time. Healthy to have that going on, and to have some real life social activity that brings you into contact with new people. Have that going on at the same time. If you tire of dating apps and you feel like you're walking through treacle and it's bringing you down, come off, just come off them, and put that time and energy into a social activity, stepping out of your comfort zone, going to a class or a group, or use that energy. Because what's happening over here with the dating apps is your energy is being depleted, and then you've got no energy for anything, and then you want to give up and think, why bother? So you want to preserve that energy, come off those apps, and do something new every single week that's going to expose you to some new people of any gender, because other people know people. So you just want more social interaction in your life. So yeah, that's what I would say about the online dating. I am going to just look through the questions. Let me know if this is helpful by sort of thumbs up, or putting a yes in the chat. So, okay, self-esteem feels higher on your own. Losing yourself in relationships. Feeling lonely but shying away from dating. No idea how to date men. Losing yourself in relationships is a very common complaint. I used to do it too. I have many examples of, you know, the guy wants to do a certain thing, I don't want to do that thing. Like, he likes staying in and drinking red wine, I like going out dancing, but I'll stay in and drink red wine, even though I don't like doing that, because I don't have sufficient connection to myself, or belief in myself, or belief in the process. So I feel like I've just found this guy, he seems to like me, and I don't value myself enough to think that there could be anyone else who might like me. So I'm going to hold on to him. I'm really going to hold on to him tightly. And I am therefore going to do everything that he says and not set any boundaries, because he might leave me. And, you know, that sort of self-esteem behavior, low self-esteem behavior, goes back to our early wounds. So if you followed my work, you know, I talk a lot about those early wounds. You know, what were your early relationships like? Where are your attachment wounds? Where are your abandonment and neglect wounds? So are you walking wounded when you go dating? Because obviously if we're walking wounded when we go dating, then all those wounds are open to being, what's the word, having salt poured into them, and that's going to be painful. So we don't have to be perfect, but we do need to address our wounds. And I have lots of tools to help you to do that, which I'll talk about in a little bit. Let me just have a look through. Why do we struggle to express our needs? I think, I've talked about that a little bit. Sometimes we don't know our needs and wants. It's very common to not know what our needs and wants are. It takes me a long time to know what mine are. And the reason it takes me a long time is I don't allow time or space to understand my needs and wants. So in order to know what I really need, I need to sit still and spend time quietly. I need to journal, and I can get in touch with my wants and needs. And then having the courage to express them, well, that comes from, if we don't have the courage to express them, that comes again from our early wounds. Are we afraid of anger? Are we afraid of rejection? Do we think that this is the only person who's going to find us attractive, so we don't want to lose them? That comes from a place of low self-esteem. So you're going to hold on to them and not state your needs. There is a real problem with not stating our needs in our relationships. We end up building a false relationship, a relationship that isn't real, that isn't based on you being you. It's based on a false self, and that is going to crumble at some point. I mean, if you show up as your false self, your real self's just going to get squeezed and squeezed and squeezed and squeezed until you feel depressed, because we suppress our real selves, and that is depressing. It happens as well with our work and our creativity. If we suppress our creativity, it's depressing. So if you suppress your needs, that's that cycle, and it will get smaller, and it will be harder to express them. And then we'll have this relationship based on a false self, and that relationship will crumble. But the problem is it might explode, because there'll be such a disparity between who you actually are and who you present in the relationship. And it could crumble, it could explode. So the best thing to do is to understand why it's hard to be yourself in relationship, and address your needs. What is your fear? What is the fear? And if you want to put in the chat, please do. What is the fear? If I show up as myself in relationship, what is my fear? So if I think about, and I've worked through this a lot in my own personal development, it's not safe to be myself. If I show up as myself, I will be abandoned, rejected, humiliated. Ultimately, I won't survive. So showing up as myself is life-threatening for me, because I come from a background with complex trauma. So it feels life-threatening to be myself in relationship. What if this other person doesn't love me and accept me? My life is in danger. Because when we're little and we're not loved, cared for, our life is in danger. And if our wounds happened when we were little, then we have a trauma wound. So what are we afraid of? Why are we afraid to show up as ourselves? I'm just going to address the question about why bother before I look at the new messages. I think it's really important. Thanks for those who've shared about the rejection. Rejection feels like the end of the world, and in friendships too. Yeah, I know that, and we can overcome that two ways. For me, there's always a double approach. So it is the inner work. It's the understanding the early wound. And if it's a complex trauma wound, we need lots of support with that. So understanding the early wound. And then you know, doing some work around that. So getting support around that. Why is it there? Why do I feel that? Where did it come from? Crying about it, crying about the early wound. And we do that. I do that generally in my therapy. I do that with my clients. I sometimes call my sessions Cry Along with Catherine, because that's where we heal with our tears and in groups. So that's why my retreats are so powerful, because women can cry together and understand each other and identify with each other. So we heal the early wound, and then, so that's the past work that we have to do. And in the present day, we actually have to walk towards rejection, provided we are provided we have our foundations. We walk towards the situations that scare us the most with our foundations and with support. And hopefully we get evidence that even if we're rejected, it's going to hurt, but I can survive. And then you challenge the wound, the initial wound, and you form some new neural pathways. So your brain used to think, if I am rejected, I am going to die. That's your child's, that sounds extreme, I know, but that's your child, that's your child inside. That's her memory, that's in your subconscious. But if you get your foundations in place, get support around you, go into a situation, get rejected, but you're absolutely fine. Hurts a little bit, but you're fine because you've got your support, because you've got your foundations. Then you challenge that belief that rejection is life-threatening. You think, gosh, rejection's not comfortable. Rejection hurts a bit, but rejection's okay. You know, it's like me doing this, doing this support session. Like, if nobody shows up, that's not great for my self-esteem, but I was going to do it anyway and record it. So that's okay. It's okay. It's about me publishing a book. You know, if I get bad reviews, that's okay, because I've got some good reviews and because I know I was supposed to do it anyway. So I am trusting myself. So it's a big topic. So if you want more, I'll talk about this in a moment, but my Laying the Foundations course, and also on my retreats, we do lots of work around those early wounds, understanding those wounds, changing those wounds, challenging our patterns, walking towards the fire, but doing so with support and with good foundations. So this idea of why bother, or lacking energy and motivation, I think we really need to know, you know, I just want to say, I hear you. I know it can be exhausting, tiring, disappointing. It can feel like you want to throw in the towel. And I do say, well, maybe you just need to throw in the towel for a little bit, not give up completely, but take a break. So this summer, I'm going to be doing lots of these dating support Q&As, but you might actually want to take the summer off and just enjoy yourself and have fun. That's absolutely a good idea too. But I just want to say, we need to be clear about why we are on this journey, why we're putting ourselves through difficult times online, why we're spending time doing dating, and why we're exposing ourselves to rejection and disappointment. And we need to be clear about what's at the end of the line, why it's worth doing, particularly the inner work, which is so important. So if you do your inner work, your deep inner work, you know, that's going to benefit you, whatever, in all areas of your life, your friendships, your work life, and so forth. But you know, I can only speak from my own experience, having had many years single or in and out of relationships that didn't work, into my early 40s, and then committing at 43 and marrying at 48, now 51, been married for 3 years. And relationship for me brings not only the obvious of well, not necessarily obvious. If we haven't had a good relationship, it's not necessarily obvious, but companionship and friendship, touch, which is a basic human need, compassion, support, fun, laughter, and a sense of building something with someone, a sense of not being on our own. And the most important, perhaps the most important and often overlooked, the opportunity to heal your relationship wounds, which is an absolute miracle, because we heal in relationship. So we do some of our healing before we go into relationship. We lay the foundations. We do some of our healing, but we can't do it all out of relationship. So this relationship that you will go into, any of them, even if they don't last, they are an opportunity for healing. And your ultimate final relationship, if it is the one that lasts, that will be an incredible opportunity for growth and healing. And it's a real gift. And I think it's really worth it. And I know at times it feels like there's nobody out there who is going to give you that experience. And all I can say is I believe that there is. And I'm not saying that just because I want to make you feel better. I'm saying that because I really believe it, and because you're here, and because you're willing, and because you're self-aware and willing to grow in self-awareness. So let me just have a quick look at I get really excited when doing these things. Okay. Self-sufficiency is mentioned, becoming, this independence and self-sufficiency that as wonderful women, I think we often have. Thanks, Ellie. Bye. I think this independence and self-sufficiency that women, that often we've been forced to have because there's been nobody else there, and we've just created these lives for ourselves and this work and so forth. So I have a friend right now who's I'm helping her with this. This can be really intimidating to someone who might want to be with us. They want to love us and they want to support us and they want to weigh in, but all they see is super independence, self-sufficiency, doesn't need anyone, totally sorted. And I think many of us need to soften. So we need to soften. I definitely needed to soften. So my mantra used to be that Simon and Garfunkel song, I am a rock, I am an island, and I don't need anybody. I will, do my work, go out, put the bins out, do whatever I need. I'll do all that on my own. I don't need anyone. And that was because I was afraid. I was afraid of becoming vulnerable. I was afraid of letting anyone in. And I was afraid of abandonment and rejection. And that all came from my early wounds. And then we create this barrier of stay away from me. Stay away from me. Even though we're saying, part of us is saying, I want to be loved. I want to be in a relationship. Another part of us is saying, stay away from me. I don't need you. So we soften, and we soften by asking for help. And we soften by being open to help and support. We soften by dropping that super independence. And when I mean being open to help, that could be professional help, but that could also be asking a friend to come around and help you move the furniture when normally you would do it on your own. We're so self-sufficient, we find it hard to ask for help. And as someone has mentioned, being a single parent, I think maybe the ultimate in self-sufficiency, well, when you have to care on your own for someone else, and then the risk of letting someone in. Yeah, I totally understand that. I haven't been through it, but I understand that. And that's, I think, where it comes down to your discernment, your connection to your intuition, and knowing that you're not dating with a craving or with extreme hunger, and that you can trust yourself to make really healthy choices. So I'm going to just answer a few questions that came in by email for the sake of the recording, and then I'm going to switch off the recording. So how How do I say politely that I don't wish to continue to see somebody? The first thing I want to ask when I saw this question was, are you sure you don't want to continue to see someone? Because one of my big questions that I suggest that you ask is it my fear or is it my instinct that's telling me to end this relationship? Now, I have two masterclasses, well, one masterclass repeated on 2 different days at the end of July. So please come along to that, details on my website. Is it my fear? Is it my instinct? So do I really want to end this? Or am I afraid of pursuing this further because of fear of abandonment, rejection, fear of being seen, and so forth? But otherwise, this is what we have to do as adults when we are dating. We have to believe that the other person is an adult too, that we are 2 adults who are just seeing if they get on. And we have to take the pressure off ourselves and off the other person. And the more fluid we can be with going on a date, doesn't work out, I'm sorry, really lovely to meet you, but I don't think there's a future here. I wish you all the best. Or, it was really lovely to get to know you a little bit, but I think I'm looking for something else, and I wish you all the best. So, but do check whether you've given someone enough of an opportunity, or whether you've made a snap judgment. How to say or explain to friends what I really want in a partner. Again, I think make sure you've done the initial work. So, do you really know what you want in a partner? Have you, in my book, there's a chapter on vision, your vision for your partner. So are you clear? And for me, it's all about values and big picture. How do you want to feel when you are with that person? I think that's a really good point to make. I would like to feel happy, loved, relaxed. In my early dating days, how I felt in relationship was on edge, frightened that they were going to leave me, but on edge or anxious. That's how I felt in my early days of dating. And I think when I met my now husband, there was a real shift because I felt at peace, which was a very unfamiliar feeling for me, being an adrenaline junkie. So being at peace, I felt at peace, and I was really drawn to that energy. So how do you want to feel when you're in relationship? And I would make sure the friends that you're going to speak to are trusted friends who have your best interests at heart and who are able to really hear you. And I think if you've chosen good people, then you can have those conversations. There was a point about only wanting to date people who've done their own personal development therapy work. And do you put that on your profile? So it's a really good question, and I absolutely support the intention, but I think we are totally shrinking our pool if that is, if we're looking for someone who's done therapy. I mean, I suppose as we age, quite a lot of people, men, women, etc., will have done therapy. But, from my experience, my now husband had done about 6 sessions of counselling years before we met, which he felt were a complete waste of time. And as far as I understood, he didn't have very much sort of that background, but we have grown together. And he has a capacity for intimacy. So I would write that in big letters. That's what I wouldn't necessarily say you're looking for someone who has done therapy or who is totally sorted. I would say you are looking for someone who has a capacity for intimacy, despite the fact that they have their own baggage and their own issues and their own wounds. Because if we're looking for someone who doesn't have any wounds, we might be looking for a long time. So you're looking for a capacity for intimacy, someone who's able to meet you and speak with you. And yeah, there was one more on the self-esteem issue. How do you love yourself again after relationship breakdown that's knocked your self-esteem? We take it really slowly and gently, especially if, as this person said, they keep dating toxic Men, this is about understanding your fears and your patterns, the roots of your patterns. So I do have some webinars on my YouTube channel about fears and patterns. There's a whole massive section, not massive, but a big section in my How to Fall in Love Laying the Foundations course, which the group is starting again in September, which talks about our fears and our patterns, as well as our self-esteem. And then in my book, there's lots on this. So self-esteem comes from doing esteemable things. So we build up our self-esteem in that way. And we become aware of our fears and our patterns, which is a considerable amount of work, but amazing, life-changing work when you become aware of your fears and how they relate to your patterns. So I'm just going to wrap up the recording bit by just saying I'm going to be doing 2 masterclasses on is it my fear or is it my instinct? The most important question you can ask. End of July, the dates are on my website. You've got 2 options, Tuesday evening or Thursday lunchtime. I'm going to be doing more of these Q&As through August, so my summer dating surgery will be open. So if you're on my mailing list, please look out for those. catherinebaldwin.com is where you can join my mailing list. And the group course, How to Fall in Love, Laying the Foundations, small group of women with group coaching, that starts in September and runs for 3 months. And it's incredibly powerful and transformational. So if you'd like to know more about that, book a call with me, a discovery call, so a 30-minute free call. And again, you can find the details on my website. And then my retreat, my wonderful retreat, we're going to Turkey on holiday retreat. Transformational personal development, yoga, sunshine, boat trips, amazing food. So if you're interested in that, please drop me a message and book a call with me, and we'll talk about that. So I'm going to switch the recording off. So thanks for those who are watching on the recording, and I'll see you on the next one.